Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show, where we discuss culture, news, politics, and more. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the revolution. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. Thank you guys so much for taking time of your day to hang out with me. We're watching Joe B. What does he say?
Do you hold former President Trump personally responsible?
Are you praying for former President Trump?
I believe President Biden.
Okay, that was it. Who knows what he just said right there? Literally have no idea. That's not a political statement. I just don't know. If you want to support my show, you go to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show. I'd greatly appreciate that. Buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea Show. Great way to support me and this show and just helping me pay for things like servers and whatnot. Hope you guys are doing just fine. Going to watch this live speech. Get in the chat. Let me know your thought. Also, if there's a buzzword we want to have the word of the day, I just don't know what it would be. Trump? Maybe if he says Trump. Let's just say Trump. If he says the word Trump, we scream. And you know what to do when we scream. We scream. Ah! All right, let's
accused of these various crimes.
Check
There's
this
been
other stuff out.
In how lenient or not they want to be with these different categories.
Hope you guys are doing just fine. Get in the chat. Let me know how you're doing.
Narrative of
I got both streams at the White House and
as heroes and political prisoners. As
Washington Post.
Such a politically tense process, these sentencing.
Hannah, we'll check in with you after we hear from the president and vice president, so stay with us later on this morning. Thank you. Rhonda, back to you as we await this sort of opening of what will be a day of reflection and remembering. Talk to us, though, about what comes next and the movement forward after today.
There is no movement forward.
Well, when you look at
they want us to remember this the rest of our lives.
Congressional lens, there is the January 6th committee's work. We heard over the weekend that Chairman Benny Thompson went around the Sunday shows and discussed where their work is right now, where they hope to go.
100% political.
One of the most important things that he's been saying is
Say
that,
it's
and some of the
other than political,
it's
just
that this is going to go into more
silly.
of a public phase. Since they came together in June, the committee really hasn't had many public events. They've had one where we heard testimonials.
I am live
some
on
of the officers who were here
Twitch,
that day,
Twitter,
and that was certainly moving
YouTube,
for a lot of people to hear their
Facebook.
personal stories. But the committee has really been working behind the
That's
scenes.
it.
They've had
So if I
interviews since they've
if I answer a question that you do not see in the chat, it's not that I'm losing my mind per usual. But, I might be losing it a little bit, but it's mainly because somebody else asked me a question.
Something where we will likely hear more about some of the things that are new developments. James pointed out that this is something that is unique, where every day we learn something new, it gets worse, it feels. It does not get easier. So this committee, as they go into this public phase and as we hear more about their findings, we could potentially hear more about how orchestrated this may have been. I know one of the groups in the committee and their staff, they're working on finding out about funding, if there was any sort of sources of funding that helped the insurrectionists in their planning. So I think this next year we're going to sort of see some of the puzzle pieces that we've all been questioning come together. I know it was on my mind that day when I saw and heard that some of the rioters got into the speaker's office. And
early morning,
stole,
still getting my coffee
from the
in.
whip's office. They went to the parliamentarian's office in the Senate. These places are not easy to find. They are not on easy to find maps. The whole complex is almost 300
But how you guys
acres.
doing?
It's a labyrinth.
I'm gonna watch this
I know,
first.
All of us have been here regularly, but for people who have not been here regularly, it's very hard to find these places. So a lot of people have been wondering, were there perhaps sitting members of Congress who may have helped some of the rioters ahead of their planning. So some of these things may come out as we learn more from the January 6th panel.
James, the Attorney General yesterday talked about how they are going after what he called these more straightforward cases. They're laying this foundation. He said that's how you build investigations. And then you go towards the more complex cases.
Yeah, Libby, and that speech by General Garland was really about reassuring a lot of Democrats on Capitol Hill, including members of the January 6th committee, that he's taking this seriously and that he's not letting up. There was some leaks several months ago that maybe there were just so many people to prosecute that they should let up a little bit, and there was a lot of backlash to that. And so basically, I watched that speech as him trying.
We'll
to
see how late
reassure,
Joe Biden is going to be today.
They're
He's supposed to start his speech
still going
now.
after bigger fish.
But
and they really are approaching this the way you would approach a RICO prosecution, the way you would go after the mob, which is to work your way from the bottom up to try to flip people.
Start from the bottom, now we
plea
here.
deals so that you can get to the people who were really the coordinators and charge them with pretty serious criminal conspiracy.
James, we were talking earlier about memories of that day. One of my memories is just the insane amount of time that
Make sure to
lapsed
subscribe
between
or
the
follow
initial phase of
however
the
you're
attack
watching.
and when
If
finally
you're
we
new,
saw
greatly
essentially
appreciate
troops
you.
come and police forces and more
Again,
of a
if you want to
presence there
support
try
me,
to
go to
stop this from
buymeacoffee.com/DerekShay Show.
Oftentimes in
Greatly
these crises, time feels longer
Thank
than it
you
is.
for
But in this
that.
case, it was actually hours that went by. So let's talk about how we expect to hear President Biden address that crisis in leadership on January 6th.
Yeah, Libby, it's really
Yeah,
remarkable. It was something like over 3.5 hours after the Capitol was breached before Trump said anything. And in fact, pretty shockingly, the president-elect at the time, Joe Biden, spoke to the country and sounded presidential before Trump did. And then Trump recorded this sort of video on the South Lawn. And so the Capitol was breached around 2 o'clock. The Capitol Police didn't regain control of the building and give the all clear until 5:30 or 6. So that was a very long time. And I do think you're going to hear the president sort of talk about that day and the lack of leadership and try to sound non-political, non-partisan. But
please.
make clear that this
is all
ultimately
political,
was an
all
insurrection
partisan.
incited
Give me a
by Donald
break.
Trump.
Washington
and
Post.
Rhonda, in that video that then President Trump recorded, he said, "Go home," but he also said, "We love you. You're very special." So President Biden has this tough line to walk here and decisions to make about how much he wants to directly condemn the president or if he wants to leave that to other people, the former president rather,
these
because
people.
there are concerns about just ramping up the tension. But on the other hand,
they're
you can't
purposely
deny
lying
the
to
facts
you.
and the history of
This
what
is
happened.
all about Trump. This is all about putting it on
That's
Republicans
right. It
because
is
there's a
going to
new
be
election
somewhat of a
coming out,
balancing
and they're
act
worried
because
about
we
that, and they
have
want
seen the
people to be
insurrection
fearful
become a
of.
political issue, even though it was
They want people to
something,
remember
that,
January
every
6th
member
and
of
equate it
Congress
to
should
all
be
Republicans,
concerned about,
all
despite
Trump's.
party,
Like,
it
if
has been politicized.
that's what they want,
So he is going to have
more
to
than
walk
anything.
that
This has
line,
nothing to do with
and
actual
especially
remembrance.
because
This
some of
has
these
everything to
events
do
today
with
have been planned by
creating an
Democrats.
emotion
Of course,
and a
on the
feeling
January
in
6th
people's
Select
hearts and
Committee,
minds
it
that
is
they
mostly
will
Democrats
bring to the ballot box. That's all January 6th
Even though
is.
they did that
I don't understand why Republicans don't do the same for the Black Lives Matter, Antifa riots all summer long. It doesn't make sense to me.
Also be somber, and I think picking Statuary Hall to make this speech, he could have made it at the White House. He could have made it in the chamber as well, even though they're not in session. But he's picking Statuary Hall, and I also wonder if that's because we saw some of the damage happen in Statuary Hall. We saw some of the artwork defaced. That some of the busts and statues have had to go undergo some repair and conservation efforts that actually just.
I was told artwork
winded up
and
a couple
property
weeks
is
ago. I
not
was
that
in
big of a
touch
deal to
with a
freak out
spokesperson
about.
from,
I
the
thought.
House Curator's office, and that process has taken a long time to remove some of the bear spray and other chemical
Whoa,
agents,
it just
that
freaked
were
me
on
out.
these items. So I think it is purposeful that he
Is that a body?
choosing Statuary Hall, and that may help him appeal to those who would want to try to make this a political issue. He may want to appeal to Americans as well as members of Congress to remember that this was very serious and it affected everyone despite your party.
Oh my God.
What a symbolic photo we just saw by our colleague Bonnie Jo Mount, that photo of that sculpture stained and wrapped in plastic. James, there is an important element to this of documenting history. And
Tell us, Yams.
unfortunately, it has been politicized. Democrats may not hold the House next year. So this is an opportunity for them. We'll see what happens politically.
Thank you for admitting
But
it.
this is an opportunity for them to mark this anniversary, to establish a precedent of
That
marking
is
this
all
anniversary
this
while they
is,
still hold
not
power here
a piece.
in this very Capitol building where we're watching today.
Absolutely, Libby, and they still have subpoena power, which they will likely lose at the end of this year, assuming that all the handicappers are right about Democrats losing the House and Senate. And a lot of this is for history, figuring out how high up this went, and it seems like there are not going to be major structural reforms the way that I think again a year ago a lot of people thought there might be, the way there were after Watergate. But we've certainly identified a lot of gaps in our system and weaknesses in our institutions, and there are some kind of administrative changes. One of the members of the committee was telling me that there are some kind of emergency powers that the Congress might be able to wrest away from the president, for a future president. To not be able to do something.
We're still waiting for Joe Biden to
so
speak, by the way.
That all,
Just
the
watching
other thing
this.
you said,
He's supposed to
Paul,
be speaking at 7.
kind of underscores.
Those of you that are
underlines
confused.
is the degree to which this is history. This is part of the American story.
We see the president and vice president coming now in
Oh.
the Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol. Let's go to them live.
Fellow Americans, good morning. Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11th, 2001, and January 6th, 2021. On that day,
God.
I was not only
No,
Vice
those do
President
not
elect,
equate.
I was also a United States Senator. And I was here at the Capitol that morning at a classified hearing with fellow members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. Hours later, the gates of the Capitol were breached. I had left, but my thoughts immediately turned not only to my colleagues, but to my staff, who had been forced to seek refuge in our office, converting filing cabinets into barricades. What the extremists who roamed these halls targeted was not only the lives of elected leaders. What they sought to degrade and destroy was not only a building, hallowed as it is. What they were assaulting were the institutions, the values, the ideals that generations of Americans have marched, picketed, and shed blood to establish and defend. On January 6th, we all saw what our nation would look like if the forces who seek to dismantle our democracy are successful. The lawlessness, the violence, the chaos. What was at stake then and now is the right to have our future decided the way the Constitution prescribes it, by we, the people, all the people. We cannot let our future be decided by those bent on silencing our voices, overturning our votes, and peddling lies and misinformation by some radical faction that may be newly resurgent, but whose roots run old and deep.
Oh my God, please say they're all white supremacists.
When I meet with young people, they often ask about the state of our democracy, about January 6th. And what I tell them is January 6th reflects the dual nature of democracy, its fragility and its strength. You see, the strength of democracy is the rule of law. The strength of democracy is the principle that everyone should be treated equally, that elections should be free and fair, that corruption should be given no quarter. The strength of democracy is that it empowers the people.
She's so fake.
fragility
I can't
of
do it
democracy
sometimes.
is this,
I just can't.
that if we are not vigilant, if we do not defend it, democracy simply will not stand. It will falter and fail. The violent assault that took place here, the very fact of how close we came to an election overturned, that reflects the fragility of democracy. Yet, the resolve I saw in our elected leaders when I returned to the Senate chamber that night, their resolve not to yield, but to certify the election, their loyalty not to party or person, but to the Constitution of the United States, that reflects its strength. And so, of course, does the heroism of the Capitol Police, the DC Metropolitan Police Department, the National Guard, and other law enforcement officers who answered the call that day, including those who later succumbed to wounds, both visible and invisible. Our thoughts are with all of the families who have lost a loved one. You know, I wonder,
Like Ashley Babbitt.
how will January 6th come to be remembered in the years ahead? Will it be remembered as a moment that accelerated the unraveling of the oldest, greatest democracy in the world? Or a moment when we decided to secure and strengthen our democracy for generations to come? The American spirit is being tested. The answer to whether we will meet that test resides where it always has resided in our country, with you, the people.
Thank you.
And the work ahead will not be easy. Here in this very building, a decision will be made about whether we uphold the right to vote and ensure free and fair elections.
Come on,
Let's be
man.
clear. We must pass the voting rights bills that are now before the Senate.
Oh.
And the American people must also do something more.
See, everything is
We
political,
cannot
guys.
sit on
Everything.
the sidelines.
Everything is.
We must
You
unite.
take every opportunity
in
you can
defense
to get
of
people's
our
attention and talk about
democracy.
what you actually want to talk about.
in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our prosperity and posterity. That is the preamble of the Constitution that President Biden and I swore an oath to uphold and defend. And that is the enduring promise of the United States of America.
Ugh.
My fellow Americans, it is
So
my
happy
honor
she finished.
to introduce a public servant with the character and fortitude to meet this moment. A leader
I just can't laugh
whose
at that.
life's
I cannot laugh at that.
has been moving our nation toward that more perfect union. President Joe Biden.
Come on, man. Madam Vice President, my fellow Americans, to state the obvious,
Here we
1
go.
year ago today,
Some depression.
in this sacred place, democracy was attacked, simply attacked. The will of the people was under assault. The Constitution, our Constitution, faced the gravest of threats. Outnumbered in the face of a brutal attack, the Capitol Police, the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, the National Guard, and other brave law enforcement officials saved the rule of law. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. We, the people, endured. We, the people, prevailed. For the first time in our history, a president had not just lost an election, he tried to prevent the peaceful transfer of power as a violent mob breached the Capitol. But they failed. They failed. And on this day of remembrance, we must make sure that such attack never, never happens again. I'm speaking to you today from Statuary Hall in the United States Capitol. This is where the House of Representatives met for 50 years in the decades leading up to the Civil War. This is on this floor. It's where young Congressman of Illinois, Abraham Lincoln, sat at desk 191. Above him, above us, over that door leading into the rotunda, is a sculpture depicting Cleo, the muse of history. In her hands, an open book in which she records the events taking place in this chamber below. Cleo stood watch over this hall 1 year ago today, as she has for more than 200 years. She recorded what took place, the real history, the real facts, the real truth, the facts and the truth that Vice President Harris just shared, and that you and I and the whole world saw with our own eyes. The Bible tells us that we shall know the truth, and the truth shall make us free. We shall know the truth. Well,
Set
here
you
is
free.
the God's truth about January 6, 2021. Close your eyes. Go back to that day. What do you see?
I see me
Rioters
laughing.
rampaging, waving for the first time inside this Capitol. Confederate flag that symbolized the cause to destroy America.
Oh,
to
yeah,
rip
here we
us
go. White
apart.
supremacy.
Even during the Civil War, that never, ever happened. But it happened here in
Just
2021. What else do you see? A mob breaking windows, kicking in doors.
See,
breaching
he
the
wants you to
Capitol.
visualize
American
it. What do you
flags on
see?
poles
How do you
being used
feel?
as
What do you
weapons, as
smell?
spears.
This is what he's doing.
Fire extinguishers
It's
being
a good.
thrown
It's a
at
good
the heads of
tactic.
police officers. A crowd that professes their love for law enforcement assaulted those police officers, dragged them, sprayed them, stomped on them. Over 140 police officers were injured. We all heard the police officers who were there that day testify to what happened. One officer called it, quote, a medieval battle, and that he was more afraid that day than he was fighting the war in Iraq.
A medieval battle.
They've repeatedly asked since that day.
All
how
I can think
dare
about is
anyone,
medieval times.
anyone diminish, belittle, or deny the hell they were put through. We saw with our own eyes. Rioters menaced these halls, threatening the life of the Speaker of the House, literally erecting gallows to hang the Vice President of the United States of America. What did we not see? We didn't see a former president who had just rallied the mob to attack sitting in the private dining room off the Oval
Deborah.
Office in the White House, watching it all on television and doing nothing for hours.
Republicans should be doing the
police
same
were
for Black
assaulted.
Lives Matter riots. I don't
Lives
know why
at
they
risk.
don't. It's such an easy win.
Nation's capital
for their
under
party.
siege. This wasn't a group of tourists. This
Uh-oh,
was
here.
an armed insurrection.
With
They
no
weren't
guns.
looking to uphold the will of the people. They were looking to deny the will of the people. They were looking to uphold. They weren't looking to uphold a free and fair election. They were looking to overturn one. They were looking to save the cause of America. They were looking to subvert the Constitution. This isn't about being bogged down in the past. This is about making sure the past isn't buried.
Come on,
That's the
man.
only way forward. That's what great nations do. They don't bury the truth. They
We get
face
rid of
up to it.
statues.
Sounds like hyperbole, but that's the truth. They face up to it.
Always,
We are a
Deborah.
great
Always.
nation. My fellow Americans, in life there's truth, and tragically there are lies. Lies conceived and spread for profit and power. We must be absolutely clear about what is true and what is a lie. And here's the truth. The former President of the United States of America
Say his name.
has
Say his name.
created and spread a web of lies about the 2020 election.
If he says Trump, we scream.
He's done so because he values power over principle, because he sees his own interest as more important than his country's interest, than America's interest, and because his bruised ego matters more to him than our democracy or our Constitution. He can't accept he lost, even though that's what 93 United States senators, his own attorney general, his own vice president, governors and state officials in every battleground state have all said he lost. That's what 81 million of you did as you voted for a new way forward. He has done what no president in American history, the history of this country, has ever done. He refused to accept the results of an election
He's not going to say his name.
and the will of the American people.
I lost.
Well, some courageous men and women in the Republican Party are standing against it, trying to uphold the principle of that party. Too many others are transforming that party into something else. They seem no longer to want to be the party of Lincoln, Eisenhower, Reagan, the Bushes.
Oh, God.
But whatever my other disagreements
downhill
are
slope.
with Republicans who support the rule of
Golly.
law and not the rule of a single man, I will always seek to work together with them to find shared solutions where it's possible. Because if we have a shared belief in democracy, then anything is possible. Anything. And so at this moment, we must decide, what kind of nation are we going to be? Are we going to be a nation that accepts political violence as a norm? Are we going to be a nation where we allow partisan election officials to overturn the legally expressed will of the people? Are we going to be a nation that lives not by the light of the truth, but in the shadow of lies? We cannot allow ourselves to be that kind of nation. The way forward is to recognize the truth and to live by it. The big lie being told by the former president and many Republicans who fear his wrath.
It's like saying Voldemort. He won't say Trump.
Actually took place on Election Day, November 3rd, 2020. Think about that. Is that what you thought? Is that what you thought when you voted that day? Taking part in an insurrection? Is that what you thought you were doing? Or did you think you were carrying out your highest duty as a citizen and voting? Former president's supporters are trying
he's
to
starting to
rewrite history.
scream.
They want you to see Election Day as the day of insurrection. And the riot that took place here on January 6th as a true expression of the will of the people Can you think of a more twisted way to look at this country, to look at America? I cannot. Here's the truth. The election of 2020 was the greatest
What's up, woke mom?
demonstration
No, they
of
won't.
democracy in the history of this country. More of you voted in that election than have ever voted in all of American history. Over 150 million Americans went to the polls and voted that day. In a pandemic, some at great risk to their lives.
They won't give
Street
this up
flooding.
because
Not
they're
a-
failing in every other aspect. So
Right
this
now,
is their push.
In state after
So people
state,
don't vote Republican
new laws
next
are being
election.
written,
This is it.
not to protect the vote, but to deny it. Not only to suppress the vote, but to subvert it. Not to strengthen or protect our democracy, but because the former president lost, instead of looking at the election results from 2020 and saying they
He's
need
not
new
gonna say it.
ideas or better ideas to
Don't
win
even
more
say it.
votes, the former president and his supporters have decided the only way for them to win is to suppress your vote and subvert our elections. It's wrong. It's undemocratic. And frankly, it's un-American.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that
Second
you're
big
fine.
lie being told by the former president and his supporters is that the results of the election of 2020 can't be trusted. The truth is that no election in American history has been more closely scrutinized or more carefully counted. Every legal challenge questioning the results in every court in this country that could have been made and was rejected. Often rejected by Republican-appointed judges, including judges appointed by the former president himself, from state courts to the United States Supreme Court. Recounts were undertaken in state after state. Georgia counted its results 3 times, with 1 recount by hand. Phony partisan audits were undertaken long after the election in several states. None changed the results. And in some of them, the irony is the margin of victory actually grew slightly. So let's speak plainly about what happened in 2020.
Oh, have you not been?
Even before the first ballot was cast, the former president was preemptively sowing doubt about the election results.
Yeah,
He built his lie
Democrats
over
have
months.
never done that before.
Wasn't based on any facts. He was just looking for an excuse, a pretext, to cover for the truth. He's not just a former president. He's a defeated former president.
Ooh.
Defeated by a margin of over 7 million of your votes in a full and free and fair election. There is simply zero proof the election results were inaccurate. In fact, in every venue where evidence had to be produced, an oath to tell the truth had to be taken, the former president failed to make his case. Just think about this.
100% woke mom.
The former president and his supporters have never been able to explain how they accept as accurate the other election results
Oh, he's
that
gonna
took
whisper.
place on November 3rd. The elections for governor, United States Senate, House of Representatives. Elections which they closed the gap in the House. They challenged none of that. President's name was first. Then we went down the line.
Is that how it
Governors,
works?
Senators, House Representatives. Somehow those results are accurate on the same ballot. But the presidential race was flawed. And on the same ballot, the same day, cast by the same voters. The only difference, the former president didn't lose those races. He just lost the one that was his own. Finally, the third big lie being told by a former president and his supporters is that the mob who sought to impose their will through violence are the nation's true patriots. Is that what you thought when you looked at the mob ransacking
Speak to the
Capitol?
microphone, Joe.
destroying property,
God, no one can hear you when you
literally
lean back.
defecating in the hallways, rifling through the desks of senators and representatives, hunting down members of Congress.
I'm sorry. Pooping in the hallway.
Patriots? Not in my view. To me, the true patriots were the more than 150 Americans who peacefully expressed their vote at the ballot box.
Oh, I thought you were about to say peacefully protested
election
all
workers
summer
who
long.
protected the
God,
integrity
it was
of the
like
vote.
right there.
And the heroes who defended this Capitol. You can't love your country only when you win. You can't obey the law only when it's convenient. You can't be patriotic when you embrace and enable lies. Those who stormed this Capitol, and those who instigated and incited, and those who called on them to do so, held a dagger at the throat of America.
Oh
and
my
American democracy.
gosh.
They didn't come here out of patriotism or principle.
Talk into the
They
mic,
came here in rage,
Joe.
not in service of America, but rather in service of one man. Those who incited the mob, the real plotters who were desperate to deny the certification of this election, defy the will of the voters. But their plot was foiled. Congressmen, Democrats, Republicans stayed. Senators, representatives, staff, they finished their work the Constitution demanded. They honored their oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Look, folks, now it's up to all of us, to we the people, to stand for the rule of law, to preserve the flame of democracy, to keep the promise of America alive. That promise is at risk, targeted by the forces that value brute strength over the sanctity of democracy, fear over hope, personal gain over public good.
Fear over hope. That's
Make no mistake about
an
it.
interesting line to use in this
We're
speech.
living at an inflection point in history, both at home and abroad. We're engaged anew in a struggle between democracy and autocracy, between the aspirations of the many and the greed of the few, between the people's right of self-determination and the self-seeking autocrat. From China to Russia and beyond, they're betting that democracy's days are numbered. They've actually told me democracy is too slow, too bogged down by division to succeed in today's rapidly changing, complicated world. And they're betting.
That's why you're trying to get rid of the filibuster?
Like them and less like us. They're betting that America is a place for the autocrat, the dictator, the strongman.
Executive order guy?
I do not believe that. That is not who we are. That is not who we have ever been.
How many
And that is
executive
not
orders,
who
Joe?
we should ever be. Our founding fathers, as imperfect as they were, set in motion an experiment that changed the world, literally changed the world. Here in
Who you
America,
pointing to, dude?
the people would rule. Power would be transferred peacefully, never at the tip of a spear or the barrel of a gun. They committed to paper an idea that they couldn't live up to, but an idea that couldn't be constrained. Yes, in America, all people are created equal. But reject the view that if you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If I hold you down, I somehow lift myself up. The former president who lies about this election and the mob that attacked this Capitol could not be further away from the core American values. They want to rule, or they will ruin. Ruin what our country fought for at Lexington and Concord, at Gettysburg and Omaha Beach, Seneca Falls, Selma, Alabama. What we were fighting for. the right to vote, the right to govern ourselves, the right to determine our own destiny. With rights come responsibilities. The responsibility to see each other as neighbors. Maybe we disagree with that neighbor, but they're not an adversary. Responsibility to accept defeat. Then get back in the arena and try again the next time to make your case. Responsibility to see that America is an idea. An idea requires vigilant stewardship. As we stand here today, 1 year since January 6, 2021, the lies that drove the anger and madness we saw in this place, they have not abated. So we have to be firm, resolute, and unyielding in our defense of the right to vote and to have that vote counted. Some have already made the ultimate sacrifice in this sacred effort. Jill and I have mourned police officers in this Capitol Rotunda not once but twice in the wake of January 6th. Once to honor Officer Brian Sicknick, who lost his life the day after the attack, and a second time to honor Officer Billy Evans, who lost his life defending this Capitol as well. We think about the others who lost their lives and were injured, and everyone living with the trauma of that day, from those defending this Capitol to members of Congress in both parties and their staffs, to reporters, cafeteria workers, custodial workers, and their families. Don't kid yourself. The pain and scars from that day run deep. I've said it many times, and it's no more true or real than when we think about the events of January 6th. We are in a battle for the soul of America. A battle that by the grace of God and the goodness and gracious and greatness of this nation, we will win. Believe me, I know how difficult democracy is, and I'm crystal clear about the threats America faces. But I also know that our darkest days can lead to light and hope. From the death and destruction, as the Vice President referenced in Pearl Harbor, came the triumph over the forces of fascism. From
Pearl Harbor.
Bloody Sunday and the Edmund Pettus Bridge came historic voting rights legislation. So now let's step up, write the next chapter in American history, where January 6th marks not the end of democracy, but the beginning of a renaissance of liberty and fair play. I did not seek this fight brought to this Capitol 1 year ago today, but I will not shrink from it either. I will stand in this breach. I will defend this nation, and I will allow no one to place a dagger at the throat of democracy. We will make sure the will of the people is heard, that the ballot prevails, not violence, that authority in this nation will always be peacefully transferred. I believe the power of the presidency and the purpose is to unite this nation, not divide it, to lift us up, not tear us apart. To be about us, not about me.
What
Deep
about
in the heart
us?
of America burns a flame, lit almost 250 years ago, of liberty, freedom, and equality. This is not a land of kings or dictators or autocrats. We're a nation of laws, of order, not chaos, of peace, not violence.
Yeah, we should. That'd be fun.
Here in America, the people rule through the ballot, and their will prevails.
You can
let's
email me
remember,
at DerekO'Shea
one
show
nation.
at gmail.com,
Under God,
and I'll contact you.
Indivisible.
Let me know what you want to talk about.
that today,
You just can't get me
tomorrow,
kicked off
and
YouTube.
forever at our best, we are the United States of America. God bless you all.
God,
God protect our troops. And my God bless those who stand watch over our democracy.
You wanted to have a very serious moment just now, and then he just didn't know what to say. Okay, that was exactly what I thought it was going to be. 100% political, nothing else.
President Biden urging Americans to face the truth about the Capitol insurrection.
Look, here's the real thing, and I'm going to do a video on this later. But the idea that Republicans aren't doing the exact same thing every day during the summer of love. I mean, there should be Remembrance Day of the summer. We should talk about it all week. We should talk about where actual people were murdered. Lots of people besides one. And they're just not doing it. I don't understand why they won't do it. They're scared to do it, I guess. They're scared to not look fringy. They're scared of the backlash. It doesn't make any sense. I totally understand why Joe Biden and the Democrats do this. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? If you have any opportunity for them to make your opposing side look bad, you're going to take it. And they're going to run with this forever. They're going to talk about this every single election cycle. They'll talk about this. If Trump runs again, which he will, they'll talk about it the entire time during his run-up. That's all they're going to talk about because it's an easy win. You don't have to think through these things. You don't have to guess. You don't have to search for someone's record. You don't have to actually talk about things that they did wrong or right. All you have to do is talk about this because it creates an emotion in people's hearts and minds, and that's what's happening. So, yeah, what up, America? Happy January 6th. So I don't understand why Republicans don't do the same. It makes literally no sense. As per usual, Republicans have zero spine, and they just take today should be a day, if you're a Republican, to take it on the chin and just be like, you know what? This is all politics as per usual, because it's always about politics, always about power, and just do the same in the summer. But they won't. They won't. Instead, they'll just try to like dance around today's January 6th. Like, do we call it an insurrection? Do we call it a riot? Do we call it a protest? I don't want to hurt my base or make myself look bad. Instead of just focusing on playing the same game the Democrats play, it makes no sense to me. I don't understand why they don't do it. Is it they're weak? Are they stupid? Or they are told not to say anything? Please let me know your thoughts on that.
To members of Congress,
but I would love to hear what these people have to say.
The divisions here on Capitol Hill, where you have a large majority of the Republican Party saying that the insurrection, at least publicly saying that the insurrection didn't happen and unfold the way the Democrats are saying.
Just remember, as always, always something to remember is that these news, these media apparatus, corporate media, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, whatever, they'll take these easy talking points because they have to do a 24-hour news cycle and they need to keep your emotion. So whether it's making fun of today or making very serious of today, it's creating an emotion in you that keeps you engaged. And that's all they care about. So just remember that that's all today's going to be. Whatever side you're listening to, it's going to be a day of mockery or a day of I don't know how to talk about this issue, or a day of this is the worst day in American history. This is our corporate media. You can't just have logical conversations. You can't come out and say that it was just a terrible day, but also today's speech is 100% political, and that's all it is. They made a new holiday to remind us of the actual coup and stealing of the election. Yeah, if January 6th was a coup, then it's like the worst coup ever created. So the side of the trillions of bullets launched with no guns. Yeah. He said armed insurrection. Joe Biden said armed insurrection. I said, oh yeah, with the 0 guns. I don't know how you can have an armed insurrection with nothing. They know these are lies and they know these talking points. That's why when they talked about the people that died, he kind of was like very vague about the reaction or like how these people died and like when they died and stuff like that, because they want to make it seem like all these people died during that event as opposed to just Ashley Babbitt. But that was November. Yeah, I remember the Viking guy and all that. Yeah, I do. Or the Antifa guy. I don't know if they're like I'm not on the line that says they're Antifa. I don't think we know. and I just think, you know, there's a bunch of people that believed in something that they were lied to, and they got caught up in a conspiracy cult, and that's what happened. And just like, but it was such an easy win for Democrats to make this about nothing. Caught slipped them in. Yeah, the whole watching cops just let people in. Also, people instigating. Who are these people running around instigating things, encouraging things, It's easy to encourage people when they have a heightened sense of anger and frustration and anxiety. It's easy to whisper and encourage people to do stupid stuff, especially when they feel like their lives are being taken away before their eyes. But just remember, don't get wrapped up in today's political talk. It's just nonsense, and they just... The economy is terrible. Inflation is higher than it's ever been. The supply chain issues. Biden, Kamala Harris is as fake as she possibly is. Biden is doing a terrible job. He looked better in his speech this morning. He should do all his speeches at 9 a.m. Apparently, he's more awake or got that B12 shot early in the morning. I don't know. Nice shot of Adderall is finally kicking in. I don't know. But today's exactly what you think it is. To say anything other is just silly, and I don't know. I just can't wait to read all the tweets today from all the insane people. I saw somebody comparing already. January 6th is basically 9/11. I've seen it where it's Pearl Harbor. I've seen all that kind of crap, and to say they're equal, it's just silly. Or they kill their own armory. A lot of diamonds. That was the suicides were really sad. I don't know how it's too ironic that too many of those people had suicides. It's really sad. And maybe it was too much for them to handle, you know? I don't know. I don't want to ever put motive on people. I just think that's not wise to do. I just can't anymore. I'm sick of the politics because I'm pissed with some fake a-hole Republicans. Yeah, I'm sick of fake Republicans as well. I saw Ted Cruz calling January 6th a terrorist attack yesterday. Come on. Come on. God. I just... everything's emotional. Everything's a ploy. I don't know. I wonder what this guy's talking about.
On January 6th. But I think they're thinking of that now far more as a template for future problems, not just
I don't want to say
a
that.
bizarre one-time occurrence.
You know, Devlin, we're hearing a warning from politicians
ranging
sad. From Vice
I
President
think
Harris just now and
suicide
President Biden about
is
the fragility
a part of me in
democracy
some ways,
and
some of
the
my friends and
potential
stuff like
for this
that.
to
So I
happen
don't
again.
want to equate
But
motive
let's
to
talk
stuff
more about
like that,
the threat assessment, right? And how
I'm sure
these
these
agencies
people
are doing
a lot of
sort of
stress
a regular
during that day.
threat assessment.
And there's probably a lot
the
for
big
them.
picture of the danger of democracy crumbling, and then there's the basic.
They should be able to handle it now is another
pipe bombs
question.
Being
But
planted, Capitol buildings being attacked around the country. Frankly, not just here in Washington.
Right, and that's part of the challenge, I think, in a post-January 6th security environment is
post-January 6th
security
security environment.
The Biden administration has done to focus on making the nation's capital more secure.
You'd have fun at
there is an understanding among the officials I've spoken to.
Porkfest?
You know, look, the next thing
Is
like
that like
this could happen
the
somewhere 2,000
Is that like
miles
the
from
libertarian
Washington.
kind of thing?
And how can the federal government help?
I've actually
state and
never
local
been
officials
to New Hampshire. I've always wanted to go.
You know,
Almost thought about
well
moving
in
there
place
because of
to
how
discourage or prevent that anything like that
because of their
kind violence
laws
from happening again.
Just
But
don't
that's
want to
a
deal
tall
with that
order,
freaking
right?
weather.
There's 50 state capitals. There's countless government buildings that could become a
Bitcoiners.
focal
Heck
point for
yeah.
street violence. And
I just started getting into
that
NFTs.
Requires a lot more intelligence sharing. That
Perfect
requires
timing
a lot
too. Now
more
that
thinking
Ethereum
about the
is
sort of
dumping.
creative ways in which crowds and social media can pump a lot of energy into one place at one time.
How low will Ethereum
Rhonda,
go?
we
Is
heard
the question.
President Biden warn that this is an inflection point, both at home and abroad. So how did the president frame what happened a year ago and this big lie that he talked about the former
is that
President
like Luke,
Trump continuing to perpetuate?
Luke
How did he
Rakowski's
frame
thing?
those in the larger context of
WeAreChange.org.
democracy?
I can't remember. Is that his thing? I don't know.
Well, he explained it as, and this
Zero
is
people
something
have been
that I've
charged with
also
insurrection.
heard from
Most people,
Democrats on the Hill
most charged
too,
with
that
disrupt.
the
Yep.
insurrection was
Few
very
are
much
still
an
being held
issue,
as political.
that
Yes.
we need to be careful about how
Yeah.
we are talking about it when it.
They call it insurrection, yet no one has been charged with that. Also, what about the the person that planted pipe bombs at the Democrat and Republican office? Like, I don't know. Who cares about that? Who cares about pipe bombs being planted? I don't.
Document
Our media
exactly what
thinks
happened
that
on
we're
January
stupid.
6th because it does become a foreign affairs
Actually, they
issue.
don't. They
It
know we're not
does,
stupid, but they
shed
know that if they
light
continue
on,
to
the
create a
divisions
narrative
in this
and say the
country
same
and
talking
its
points over and over again,
broadcasting.
that it'll get in your
January
head.
6th
Okay,
also
Luke was
is
there.
very much
Oh,
a
were you
national
there?
security
Did you go there,
issue,
Woke
too,
Mom?
when you think of it from that lens.
Devlin, you've been reporting on the efforts by D.C.'s Attorney General to hold accountable the groups of whom had members attack the United States Capitol, primarily the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Tell us about the D.C. Attorney General's lawsuit against those
I think it was
groups.
more than the Proud Boys
So
and
the
Oath
DC
Keepers were
Attorney
there.
General filed a lawsuit in the last month, basically trying to sue a lot of the folks who've been charged with crimes related to January 6th under an old law called the Ku Klux Klan Act, and it's basically a law that
Yeah, they got to
allows you
find a
to,
law. I love that.
Seek civil damages, monetary damages against
Trespassing.
people who
It's like me when I used to skateboard all the time.
conspire to commit violence or impede
Yeah, I hope
the
Trump
regular function
tries-
of government. And that's a really interesting
I
model.
can't believe
because
Trump
it was
canceled
used,
his speech today.
fairly successfully
I think
against
that's
the
a
organizers
weak
of
move.
the Unite the Right rally in
Tom Woods is
Charlottesville a
there,
few
Jeffrey
years
Tucker,
back
some
that-
famous
that
YouTubers
resulted
sound
in
like
some-
me.
some real bloodshed. And it's been
I
used
love meeting
historically
famous
over the
YouTubers,
years.
Woke Mom.
One of the ways in which the Ku Klux Klan
2 years in a row.
kind of
I only
fell
got one
apart in this
Tom.
country is that they were sued into
Tom
falling
Vase,
apart.
a Bitcoin guy.
And one famous
Is
case,
Tom Vase, is he
in the
like doing a
1980s,
podcast with a
woman
woman?
whose son was killed
I don't
by the
know.
Ku Klux Klan
I don't listen to
basically
very
took the
many
Ku Klux
crypto
Klan's
podcasts.
State party headquarters.
Probably should.
So this model
They're my
has
type of people.
been successful historically. It'll be interesting to see if it's successful here, but the idea is to basically try to hit some of these far-right groups, particularly individuals who are already facing criminal charges, hit them in the pocketbook.
Devlin, can you give us sort of some context of how people you talk to in law enforcement and within the
These are the type of people that
administration
tell
think
you
about
that
this
your
moment
office environment
historically?
isn't
we heard
diverse
the Attorney General
enough.
yesterday reflecting on moments
that's
of
a perfect
conflict
example.
in American history, attacks that have happened internally here at the United States. How do they see this moment in terms of not just crimes that could be committed, but hatred, tension, acts of hate?
So it's interesting. I think within, for example, the FBI, there has been a pretty interesting debate as to how much was the
speaks to
ball
education
dropped
about it. Okay, cool.
leading up to January 6th.
Very cool.
And I think there are good faith arguments that go all around there, including the degree to which the Capitol Police were just very much unprepared.
It's hard to like.
What I think is
I
interesting
couldn't
now
make it
is
to the
that
piece.
ever from January 7th on,
okay.
a lot of law
So
today, in
full
fact,
disclosure,
a lot
I
of
almost
law
went
enforcement
to
really believe
January
that
6th
whatever
because I don't know if you know who
prior to
Topher
January
is.
6th
Topher Town, Topher Town Music, Black Blanta. I interview him a couple of times. He's a good dude. Him and I are friends. We talk a lot, and he invited me to come out there. He told me I should come out because he was out there performing, and I was just gonna go watch him perform and leave. But I was like, I was just nervous because I just assumed it was gonna be like tons of people, no parking, and I'm just not that crazy of a follower to be out there. So, and now I am glad I didn't go. I couldn't make it to had a school. I wore my Make America Great shirt and red hat, kind of funny, sitting in the same room with commies. America's Guard, shout out. You got some cojones for wearing that kind of stuff. I don't know where you go to school, man, but congrats on standing up for what you believe in.
Going after so many of the people who did commit crimes that day.
And Devlin, finally, how do political changes affect investigations? If we
I always
Republicans take over Congress.
as somebody who worked in education for a lot of my life, you don't see a lot of proud conservatives as children. You always know who those kids are, but wearing political shirts is not very common, as opposed to like the proud leftist kids God, all they do is wear it, and that's all they talk about, and they bring it up. They'll bring it up in the middle of class all the time, and just be like, "Did you know that blah 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 happened?" And you're like, "Okay." It was funny, but the weak-minded were giving me. Of course they were. Of course they were, because the weak-minded. Look, here's the biggest problem with a lot of America is that people are scared of the other. They're scared of the other side. They're scared of leftists. They're scared of people on the right. They're scared of Trump supporters. They're scared of Biden supporters. They're just scared to have a conversation. And that's why I feel like we're ready for a national divorce at this point. Just a peaceful divorce. Doesn't have to be, war. But like we're just different now, and we just don't have conversations. I, for one, am happy to have conversations. I'm not here to have debates. I just want to hear why you believe what you believe. And I don't lose my mind when I see a Black Lives Matter flag or a LGBT flag or,
I think we just have to face the facts. What happened?
You can barely hear him.
A clear picture for the American people. It's not about me. It's not about the vice president. It really isn't. That's the thing that bothers me most about the sort of attitude that seems to be emerging to some degree in American politics. It's not about you, it's about me. That's how it's viewed. But it's not about me. It's not about whether I'm president or she's vice president. It's about the system and about somebody who decides to put himself above everything. And but I did not want to turn it into a contemporary political battle between me and the president. It's way beyond that. It's way beyond that.
Mr. President, more than it heals, sir. Does calling him out divide more than it heals? You've talked so much about healing, sir. Healing this country.
No, look, the way you have to heal, you have to recognize the extent of the wound. You can't pretend. This is serious stuff. And a lot of people, understandably, want to go, look, that was an exception. I just as soon not face it. You got to face it. That's what great nations do. They face the truth, deal with it, and move on.
Mr. President, has anything changed in this country?
He's literally doing what he just said. Deal with it. Now he's moving on.
President Biden pausing before he
Okay. I just wanted to hear that. Great question. Stupid answer. I'm so over the. I can completely understand that. I am over it too. I already had COVID. What are the causes? So, gentleman president. He is the wound.
The moment that President Biden really condemned Donald Trump's role in the insurrection and the lie.
I love that he didn't say Donald Trump once. I was hoping he would, but it's now it's like Voldemort. You can't speak his name.
That will be remembered just in that fashion. And he might not have set out to do that, but we knew when he was elected and during his inauguration. I know we talked about
he doesn't go to the
some of our
toilet.
coverage back then.
He just poops
that
his
he
pants.
was inheriting a very divided country, and he would often have to be called on.
Why go to the toilet when you
like
could just go in your
this to
pants?
have to try to bring both sides together. And it seems like an insurmountable battle right now when you know what's going on.
This lady
here
thinks
in
that
Capitol Hill.
they can bring us together by speeches like this.
Set up to look into the sixes,
I'm not saying these people are stupid,
majority
but that's the
Democrat
direct
panel
opposite
because,
is happening.
The Republican leader in the House did not want his party.
If he was to
members
come
on
out,
there, and the two that are on there went against the grain.
If Biden was to come out and talk about today, and then this summer talk about the entire summer of devastation, I'd be okay with that. But he's not going to, because it's all about politics. It's all about your emotion. It's all about a ploy to make you remember at the ballot box, instead of you remembering how bad the economy is, how bad inflation is, how bad of a job he's doing, how bad the Federal Reserve is at this moment, just like holding our politicians accountable for actually creating a better lifestyle for us. Instead of you remembering that, he wants you just to remember Trump, the images of Trump supporters primarily in your head, of insane Trump supporters storming the Capitol, destroying everything, and they're trying to take away your freedoms, take away your government, take away your livelihood. And they want you to vote based on that, not based on anything they have done, because they don't do crap.
So this really was an inflection moment.
Make
that the
pants
president
clean
just spoke
again?
on, and really shows you that we may be at a juncture with our politics.
Oh, I need that.
overall,
That
and
should be a
certainly our
shirt.
professional politics.
Oh, come on.
James Hohmann, as we prepare
America's
to
Guard,
dude.
You
You
should
Capitol,
be in charge of my
let's talk about
store.
where this all leads, right, in terms of the investigations. We heard a lot from Devlin about how the
can put that
Attorney
over my
General is
butt.
continuing to,
What the apple bottom
the
jeans?
Attorney General tells us, to pursue
Fun fact,
sort of
Biden
the,
had 600
the bigger,
lawyers
more
to challenge the
complex
2020
cases.
election if he loses people.
We also are
Okay,
watching the work
yeah.
of the January 6th committee.
The
But set
idea
some
that
expectations for us of where this all goes.
every election has, as soon as it's been over, they've just conceded and there hasn't been anything. I don't know how old you are, America's Guard, but it happens almost every election. I mean, I can think about Bush and Gore going into forever for Florida recount over and over and over, and then Gore saying he stole the election. So this idea that it's just a Republican thing is so dumb, and people believe it though. People believe it because people will look at a photo of an apple and call it an orange at this point.
This is making changes in many ways. The Congress, the Capitol, especially on the House side, still feels like a crime
All right,
scene
guys.
a year later.
Freaking love you guys.
With all those reminders.
I hope you
Ron was
guys have a great rest of the day. I'm going to take my dog for a walk, but I'm going to go live later. I'm going to do a little recap and check in with the news. So look out for that. As always, Tiger Man, what up? Why did Nancy not take the National Guard when Trump said, yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's like when you don't know something, the reason of why something is hard, it's easy to go into the conspiracy route, but it's hard not to, you know? It's just, if you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. I'm going to go take my dog for a walk because she's a husky. It's snowing outside. She's ready to go. But look out for my YouTube videos. Also, follow me on BitChute, Odyssey, or Rumble at this point, because I just got back from a 2-week ban on YouTube, and it's only a matter of time before they ban me again for whatever. As always, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't get out any kind of information like that. But, you know, I'm crazy. I wasn't around the Bush Gore. I know Gore lost more counties, which were audit. Yeah. Enjoy. Appreciate you. I'll be back live later. Look out for that. You guys are amazing. As always, appreciate you. Share this on all your friends and family. Tell them about the Derek O'Shea Show. The only way I'll grow is through people, viewers like you. Bye-bye. Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show, where we discuss culture, news, politics, and more. Sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the revolution.